Welcome this afternoon. With me is Stacy Paul, and we're continuing on with Chapter 17 in the Belch & Belch Integrated Marketing Communications book. And so, Stacy, I'll turn it over to you, and you can start out, okay?
Chapter 17 is broken up into 3 different parts.
Okay.
We will begin to discuss public relations and then go on to publicity and then end with corporate advertising.
Okay.
Public relations has changed over the years in their functions, and traditional public relations is a management function which evaluates the public's attitudes, identifies the policies and procedures of an organization with the public interest, and then executes the program of action to earn public understanding and acceptance. When do you believe that the roles of public relations changed or their roles were defined?
You know, I would look at it probably in the last 15 years or so, 15 or so years. You know, a lot of it has to do with the social media and the internet and the access to information. The computer age just kept bringing out the technologies. People and companies are seeing you do something, and 2 minutes later it's on the web or whatever. And so I think that has a lot to do with it, especially, you know, the last 4 or 5 years. It's really escalated, and but even before that, companies were getting away from the traditional methods of public relations firms, and you know, sizes of companies have changed, and that has a lot to do with it as well. You know, as they can keep moving forward. So I think, you know, when has it changed and redefined? You know, advertising and numbers and the data-driven, all of that through the internet has really changed public relations.
All right. Well, the new role of public relations, it's a much broader perspective and designed to promote the organization and its products. Their primary function is marketing communications and are required to maintain mutually beneficial relationships between the organization and the public. What are some of the new roles that you would say public relations has engaged in, and what functions do you think they are missing out of because of this change?
As mentioned earlier, I think one of the biggest roles that they're taking on more now is with the internet. You know, I think one of them is there's always, you're promoting an image all the time, and you know, the public images and the public relations aspects. Even something, you know, things that they've started to do, more blogging, and you know, and making those connections with bloggers and people in that realm, I think is a big part of the new roles that are going on. You know, getting the information out, keep getting it out. And I also think, you know, the stock market there's a lot that you know, investors are always looking at, and they want the information now. And you look at the sharp swings in the stocks that have happened in the last couple of years. You know, how do you deal with your stock dropping a lot? You know, that's the public relations aspects that are out there. And so I think that you know, dealing with the information and managing the information is probably a big. I think one of the things that they're missing out on probably the most is the connection to the people. You know, the public relations was, we're going to make you feel good. We're going to you know talk to you about our company. We're going to do good things in the community. You know, and companies are still doing that, but I think they're missing out on that because everything is so fast, and they got to try to keep, you know, keep going, you know, as fast as they can. People react to the news on such a fast basis that I think they're missing the connection on that with people.
Okay. Well, the new role for PR is necessary for managers to have strong marketing and public relations departments and not operate them independently. You should be blending their talents together to provide the best image and product for the service. And PR is beginning to integrate into the promotional mix, which companies have had a hard time in the organization of it too. There is a very broad role laid out that includes traditional and new responsibilities. With a new form of public relations, we have developed a new concept, which is marketing public relations, which is the building of the marketplace excitement before media advertising breaks. This is an opportunity for the marketer to obtain publicity and dramatize the product, and this is increasing the effectiveness of the ad.
Yeah. Yeah, in addition, it's, creating the news, creating advertising news is a big part, basically where there is no product news. And, the ads themselves can be, turned into in the focus of the publicity. You look at, some of the Super Bowl ads and, things that are always on the cutting edge. So an ad could turn into publicity, or the publicity about an event. I think back to the Tim Tebow ad on the Super Bowl, or even GoDaddy. I mean, it's become a social issue, and there's, so how do you keep working around that, the public relations part of a company? And so those are some examples of the creating advertising when there is really no product, news.
All right. As well, we have to create advertising news where there is no product, and improving the ROI. They reduce the overall marketing cost while delivering meaningful marketing outcomes.
Yep. The next one, introducing a product with little or no advertising. A lot of big companies will use this, HP, Apple. They're not going to go out and advertise a lot, but they, promoting, aspects of a new release. Right now the iPad 3 is coming out, and so there's the public relations aspect of, okay, we're going to announce it. Here comes the announcement. It's sometime this week. So, but it's just every new product, it's a product launch. We're going to talk to you about it, even at that, Lime Valley, when we were down there, about them on how do the, press releases and and other aspects of getting the information out, even for smaller companies, is important.
All right. They also provide a value-added customer service, which many companies provide these services through their website to add the convenience for the customer. So it's 24-hour service, one-on-one, that you can ask questions or provide information to your customers.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, having a good website and having information available is definitely allowing them to have good public relations aspects. Other areas, brand to customer. We're increasing the brand to your customers, of the brand awareness. Pillsbury Bake Off. You can start thinking some of those. There are activities that are just continuing to build on the brand and making that strong loyalty connection between the brand and the consumer.
Yep. Finally, defending the products as at risk and giving the customer the reason to buy. PR can give them a reason to buy it and defend and promote the company's products at the same time. Now we will discuss some of the advantages and disadvantages for marketing public relationship. An advantage is it is a cost-effective way to reach the market. It is highly targeted way to conduct your PR. It helps companies achieve their credibility with their customers. It supports advertising programs and makes messages more credible.
Yeah.
And it can create opinions and help leaders and trendsetters in the market.
Yeah. Those are all good advantages. There's also the disadvantages that go along with it. Probably the first one is the lack of being able to control the media. You're the media can control what they want to put out there. So you can give them all these great press releases and information and sound bites, everything, but they're going to still take what they want, and they might take it to a different twist or anything like that. So it might not make you look as good. And it's difficult to tie in slogans as well. That's another disadvantage of that. And other ways to advertise. If you're doing these slogans over and over within a public relations piece, they're probably not going to run it because it's sounding too much like an advertisement.
Yeah.
And then finally, one other aspect to that is measurements. It's hard to measure, and that's one of the areas. And then the media is not always going to guarantee the time. You could send a press release, and the news might be busy news for a week, and you might not get it in the paper for a week or two.
All right.
So that's one of the things we got to always the negative aspects of public relations marketing.
We will now look into the process of determining and evaluating the public's attitude. The first question that might be asked is, why are we concerned with the public's attitude? And one reason is that the attitudes may affect sales of the firm's products, and a number of companies have experienced sales decline as a result of consumer boycotts. So now we will go on to the steps. The first step is to provide input into the planning process. Once the firm has determined the public's attitude, they become the starting point to develop the programs.
Yep, that's a good first step, and then you move into the second step, where it serves as an early warning stage, a warning system. The problem first exists, okay, and this is where we're able to do some research on it to identify the potential problems, and then handle them effectively as they become more serious. So it's really that early warning stage that is important before they escalate beyond repair.
Third, it secures our internal support. If research shows there's a problem, it is much easier to address it immediately before it escalates.
Yep. And then finally, it increases the effectiveness of the communication. It allows people to better understand the situation. I think that's a big part. The better communication you have, the more people are going to understand it. And the more they understand it, they're going to be able to deal with the problem more effectively.
And then we must establish a plan for this. You must define the problems, plan the program, take actions to communicate, and finally evaluate the program.
Yep. Within that, you need to ask the question, why is it essential to have a strong plan?
I think it's very essential because, you need to know, you want it to be laid out so you don't skip a step or skip a beat when you're going forward, and when you're including your finances into this, as well as the community and the people who you're trying to reach.
Right. Yeah, very good point.
Once you have developed and executed the plan, you must evaluate it and ask some of the following questions. Does the plan reflect a thorough understanding of the business situation?
Okay, all right. One of the next questions is has the PR program made good use of the research and background resources?
And then, are the program objectives specific and measurable?
And then the fourth, does the program describe how the results are measured?
Do the research, objectives, activities, and evaluations all tie together and be consistent?
Yep. Okay. And then the last one, the sixth one, has the PR department communicated with the marketing throughout this whole process in the development of the program? It's a very important factor that's so important. The stockholders, they always want to see what's their return on their investment, their ROI, and making sure you're using their money wisely and running the company to the best of your ability to make them a profit. That's what it comes down to, is making them profit. And then the current community members, working close with them, target them with ads, appealing activities. Are you going to sponsor some things? Maybe you bring in, I have one friend that offered actually bought out a movie theater and rented a movie for employees and their families and other people in the community just to come in and come for free, and those are great ways to keep working on that. Larger companies, air pollution and other pollution aspects, making sure, letting people know we're not polluting the air and we're a good neighbor, and we're not causing any problems. Other examples of wetlands, we're not tearing down wetlands, or if we do to build something, we're creating more wetlands somewhere else, and it's those aspects that are good for public relations.
All right. Well, next we will discuss how we are able to implement the PR program in a couple of different ways. So first, there's press conferences are another way to implement the PR program. They are held less often than press releases and are usually held to release significant news on a news program or a campaign.
Okay. All right. Interviews in magazines. Those are great ways to get that out. It can reach a lot of people. It's targeted at certain specific people that are interested in that, and it allows people to ask specific questions to get that information out and draw some interest. It's that human interest aspect of a lot of times if there are some other events, good or bad, it's good to hear from like the president or the CEO or the spokesperson from the company to get that information out. So interviews on certain topics are good as well.
All right. And then social networks and blogs can be used to target the younger generation, and many companies are now expected to post information on their website, providing announcements and updates for press releases. Yeah. And it's really just targeting the younger generation and getting the news out to them.
Yeah.
All right, well, this ends this section on public relations, and we will now begin talking about publicity and the effects it has on people.
Okay. Well, welcome back to the second segment of this chapter. So what are we going to cover this time?
This time we're talking strictly on publicity and the differences between publicity and public relations.
Okay.
Publicity is the generation of news about people, products, or services that appear in broadcast or in print media. Yep. And according to many marketers, publicity and public relations are the same, but there are several major differences. Publicity is typically a short-term strategy, while public relations is concerned on the program extending over a period of time.
Yep. That's a good way to show the differences between those two. Public relations is designed to also provide positive information about a company, and it's usually controlled by the firm or the agency that they've hired to help them get that message out. Whereas publicity, however, is not always positive, and it isn't always under the control of the organization. Sometimes you don't want information to get out, and it does, and so that's the publicity that's not positive.
Yep. Publicity can offer a great form of communication to a wide variety of mediums in which it appears. When it's not positive, however, companies can suffer many consequences, such as loss of sales, impact on their image, and just their overall appearance in the community.
Yep. Okay.
There are several disadvantages and advantages of publicity, and so we will cover them next.
Okay. Some of the advantages there's a lack of control of what information is conveyed. Okay, you got social networks, blogs, the news media. You want to try to control them, but it's just very hard to control some of that information there.
All right. The timing of the publicity is not always under your control, and information may be released too early or too late to make an impact.
Yeah, that's one thing. You want the timing to go perfect all the time, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And finally, the accuracy sometimes isn't always right. Especially in blogging or other word-of-mouth type things, the information just might not be right, and or it gets lost in the translation somehow, and so that's one of the negative aspects about it as well.
All right.
So, you've always heard that the one part, about publicity, all publicity is good publicity, and that's not always true, and it's kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. We mentioned it earlier. There's a lot of negative aspects, but some people say keep getting your name out, it's going to be beneficial, but I don't necessarily agree with that.
All right. Well, that ends publicity. We discussed how it's different from public relations, but a lot of it is quite similar. And so now we will go on to corporate advertising.
Okay.
Corporate advertising does not promote a specific product or service, but it promotes the firm overall and enhances the image. There are a number of reasons why corporate advertising is controversial. Consumers are not interested in the form of advertising because they don't like the corporate ads, and they do not understand the reasoning behind them.
Yeah. That's the first one. It's also it's a costly way. It's expensive for self-indulgence. I mean, it's just like, okay, we're going to get our name out here, and you know, the corporate advertising. A lot of times, people look at it as it's for the ego of the CEO or of the company or the top management. You know, so maybe they can get a job later, you know, with a bigger company. And so some people see it as that way as well, publicizing their the corporate promotion, you know, so they can get another job later, better, more pay. So that's one self-indulgence is people need to be aware of that in corporate advertising.
Another reason why people don't like it is they always think that the firm must be in trouble. There's either a financial issue or they're in trouble in the public eye and they're trying to create their own objectives. So maybe the publicity that was sent out is negative, and so they're trying to build up their name once again.
Yeah. So people take things negatively, you know, and look into it sometimes too much. You know, it's one of the other things is people look at it as it's a waste of money. You know, you're not targeting anybody. You're not trying to reach your target market. You know, and it's just like throwing away money. But you know, there's a reason why people are, you know, do that, trying to reach masses and keep the good name out there. But sometimes the appeal just comes across as wasting money.
And then there's two objectives that corporate people are trying to advertise.
What's the first one?
The first one is to create a positive image of the firm, like we said before.
Yep. And then the second one is communicating the organization's views on social issues, business, and other environmental issues.
All right. There are a few types of corporate advertising. The first one is image advertising, which creates goodwill both internally and externally, creating a position for the company that generates resources, both human resources and financial resources. And they do this by general image or positioning ads and scholarships, recruiting, and generating financial support.
Yeah, you know, that recruiting is a big part where, you know, people want good employees, so you always want that good image out there, and that corporate advertising, get the best employees as possible. Event scholarships take on various forms, you know, concerts and at stadiums and games and you know, and things like that for sports. So that's another way of corporate advertising is through sports.
Advocacy advertising is concerned with propagating ideas and controversial social issues of public importance in a manner that supports the interest of the sponsor.
Yep. And then the last one is the cause-related advertising. This is when companies link with charities or nonprofit organizations, you know, as part sponsors, co-sponsors. They benefit from it. You know, they try to get that favorable publicity out of all of that, and at the same time helping the charity reach some of their goals or the funds that are needed. You know, and some other types of corporate advertising, you see, like I'm trying to think of like a Hobby Lobby or a Shields, or you know, some where they'll take out a full page ad and it doesn't even really say their name, maybe real small in the print, you know, around Easter or Christmas, or you know, those aspects. You know, it's publicity, it's the corporate image, and but they're trying to link it with something else, and in this case their views on Christianity and supporting those holidays. And so those are some, and it's always good to have, you know, good relationships with charities and stuff like that as well. So all right, we've had a good discussion on this. You know, there's lots of other aspects on corporate advertising, you know, but the biggest thing is it can be very positive. And, you know, if it's used well, it'll come off very positive. If it's used poorly, it'll come across as a negative impact on the company. And so there's a fine line there, and you've got to make sure that companies handle it with care.
All right. Well, this ends Chapter 17, and we talked about public relations, publicity, and corporate advertising. And so thank you for talking about this.
Well, thank you, Stacy.